as Russia's war against Ukraine continues to wreak havoc regionally globally. The Ukrainian people and their allies are demonstrating remarkable determination, courage. But almost 2 years after Russia launched its full-scale invasion, it is increasingly clear that the international community can and should do much more to help. While G7 countries and other governments around the world have been extraordinarily generous in supporting Ukraine's war effort, there are growing signs of fatigue in some quarters. This is a development that Russia has been waiting for. After the US and EU failed to commit more than 100 billion in aid to Ukraine in December, the idea of seizing Russian assets frozen by Western countries re-emerged as a potential solution. Although seizing these assets would boost Ukraine's morale and finances, policymakers on both sides of the Atlantic remain cautious. As the New York Times recently reported, top U.S. officials fear that setting such a precedent would deter other countries from depositing their funds in the New York Federal Reserve or keeping them in dollars. But concerns that other governments may be wary of keeping their funds in the United States for fear of future seizures miss some important points. Seizing Russia's frozen assets would not affect the assets of other countries or change the incentives of governments that are not planning a major war. Moreover, by not seizing these funds, Western countries are signaling that governments waging brutal wars aggression may violate international law and at the same time take advantage of this to escape the consequences their actions. Instead, G7 leaders need to send a clear message: no country can have it both ways. Such seizures can act as a peacebuilding measure by deterring other bad actors from violating international law. The supposed negative impact seizure of Russian assets on the willingness other countries to invest funds in US and Europe, if real, would be clearly evident when these funds are frozen in early 2022. There was no capital flight, especially from the USA or Europe. This is partly because there are few safe alternatives to the established financial system. Even setting aside concerns such as capital controls, will they feel safer holding their money in, say, Chinese institutions? In fact, many economists argue that such capital inflows are more costs than benefits. Allegedly, these cause the currency to appreciate, making it difficult to export goods and compete with imports, thus eliminating employment. Of course, some financiers may face losses, but most of funds held in the United States or reserves deposited with Fed and do not directly benefit Wall Street. The same goes for Euroclear, the Belgian financial institution where most of Russian assets are held. Another related argument against asset seizure is that it can only be done once. Because once it happens, no country can leave its reserves or other assets in the US or the EU. But even if true,